Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Strong Collectors podcast. Today, Jordan and I are going to be bringing you another one of our awesome interviews. Today, we're interviewing Blake Wright, who is here to talk to us about his brand new magazine, ToyCollectr. It focuses on toys and action figures. On the front of issue 1, it displays a brand new figure reveal. So that's going to be the new gargoyles. You can listen to the podcast to find out what that is. I'll let him tell you. But issue 1 is out now. You can find it either through the links in the description, or you can also get it at Big Bad Toy Store. Don't worry though, you can still sign up for issue 2 and beyond. Those are going to be in the links below as well. It's going to be once every other month, and we're going to get to know everything that he has planned for this magazine, what's to come, and why he decided to make a print magazine versus digital. So without any further ado, let's get into the podcast.
All right. Well, we are here with Blake Wright, who is a professional journalist, author of The Toys That Time Forgot, and the mastermind behind ToyCollector magazine. How are we doing today, Blake?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Kind of a dreary, overcast day here. I don't know what it's like. I have a buddy in Texas who
It's just hot as hell here. That's all you need to know.
That's all we need to know. Very good. Cool. Well, we wanted to jump right into it and ask, why do you think people love collecting toys so much?
I think it's for someone my age, it's kind of generational. I mean, I grew up with the 70s and 80s being the real peak time for toy introduction for me. And if you ask anybody, it's probably the 80s was probably the golden age for boys' toys. I mean, there were so many action figures, so many play sets, so many vehicles. Um, and back then we weren't in control of what money got spent. We had our parents to deal with that. Now, totally different story. Discretionary income can go to a lot of different things, and some people collect cars, some people collect stamps, some people collect toys. And I think a lot of it has to do with I'm a real big my eyes are drawn to figural representations of things. So when I had an old favorite cartoon character, an old favorite movie hero or villain, to see that in 3D plastic form is just it's just something about it. I want to have one of those on my shelf. So yeah, I think it's a lot of different reasons, but now I think what you're seeing with the double whammy of we have our own money now, and things happening like COVID, where everyone was kind of locked locked down, and looking for outlets to do something. I mean, you saw where if you looked at the stats, board game sales went through the roof during COVID because people were trying to find something to do inside with their kids. Same for collecting. I think online sales for a lot of toys and action figures really spiked pretty hard, because again, you were limited at what you could do.
Right.
Yeah. So do you think kind of, I guess, seeing a lot of those brands still being produced, whether it's Transformers, G.I. Joe, you kind of see these collectors who grew up with those are getting to share that with maybe younger collectors?
Yeah, I mean, if you walk down the toy aisle right now, you would think you were in 1986. I'm serious. I mean,
Yeah.
between Ghostbusters and Transformers and Star Wars and He-Man, and there's just so much of it. So the toy companies obviously picked up on the whole nostalgia vibe and how people are feeling right now when it comes to things like that. And to be able to to have kids and to be able to introduce this is what dad played with when because you can only doing that with a figure is might be a little bit more of a smooth transition than trying to show your kid the Atari 2600.
Yeah.
This is the dot, you got to remove that dot over here. It's not World of Warcraft, it's adventure. So
maybe more of a timelessness to the figures as
yeah,
opposed
because I
to
mean,
yeah.
even with the representations from the 80s and 90s, they captured the character. I mean, yeah, sculpts are better now and you've got more articulation and that sort of thing, but the character was always there.
Yeah. So you said that you started collecting in the 80s. Do you remember what first got you into the collecting? Like you're like, I got to get all of the He-Mans or
Well, actually, I guess it started in the 70s because, when I was 8 years old when Star Wars came out.
okay.
So how perfect is that? An 8-year-old boy goes to the movies, sees Star Wars, comes out of the movie theater and begs his parents to take him to the nearest whatever to get a toy. Of course, I had to wait till 78 for that, but
Is that with that Christmas where they sent you
that
like
was
the box
Christmas of
voucher
77.
thing?
Yeah. Christmas of 77 was the infamous early bird kit. Yeah.
Could you recap that real quick just for us?
Basically, Kenner signed the license for the Star Wars toys very late in the game. It was signed in the spring or early summer of 77, to where it was impossible for them to get figures sculpted, tooled, manufactured, and brought back over here for Christmas. So somebody in the marketing department, I forget who it was, may have been Jim Swearingen, decided that they were going to sell parents an empty box, basically, for Christmas, promising the child that come the next February or March, they would be the first on their block to have the first 4 Star Wars figures. And there were some things inside the box. It wasn't totally empty. There was some cardboard, stands and this sort of thing. And it was a neat little thing. But again, basically, they were selling a prompt. It was the first pre-order, if you want to call it that, or a very early iteration of a pre-order. So the kid bought the thing, opened it up at Christmas. Hey, I got a piece of cardboard for Christmas. But 8 to 12 weeks later, these 4 figures show up, and all is right with the world. And soon thereafter, the stores start getting stuffed with the product, and the rest is history as far as Star Wars is concerned.
And so you've started with Star Wars, and then now today, what are you still collecting figures? I see the display behind you, but for our audio listeners, what do you like to pick up now?
Yeah, as far as current lines, I really dig what NECA's doing with the Gargoyles line. There's no accident that's the first story. That's the big story in the first issue of the magazine, because I like what they're doing there. And I was a little late as far as age to watch Gargoyles when it was on. I was already out of college by the time that it was on television. So, but I had caught up to it on Disney Plus and really enjoyed it. Thought it was every bit the equal of Batman the animated series, which was very lauded and for its time, that kind of brooding detective noir kind of thing. So there's that. I'm looking over at my cases. I like Popeye stuff. So when Mezco did their 112 Popeye stuff, I had to get that. Boss Fight's getting ready to come out with theirs now, so I'm looking forward to getting those. And I also have an affection for, and this isn't toy per se, but Weta over in New Zealand does these epic minis, these mini epic figures. They're basically stylized versions of a lot of famous characters. Of course, they did Lord of the Rings, and those are the characters that I'm collecting out of that line. That's the Arwen back here. So she's
okay.
Oh yeah, I've seen those before. I think yeah, my brother, he's a big Lord of the Rings. I like Lord of the Rings too, but he's collects different Lord of the Rings stuff.
So these are really, really cool. They kind of capture the film essence, but they kind of make them more of an animated feel. It reminds me a lot of what the first Clone Wars cartoon was, the Jindy Tarakovsky one.
Yeah, kind of that stylized look.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So
Very cool. So I guess collecting and seeing things, like, how would you say the hobby has changed, or would you say there are things that have stayed the same, or your observation in collecting?
yeah, I think the hobby has changed because there's a lot more people in it than there was just 5 years ago. There are a lot more independent toy stores that have popped up than there were 5 years ago. But that's out of kind of necessity. We lost Toys R Us here in the States, and we've lost a lot of retailers over time. So some of these mom and pop shops are kind of picking up the slack. And also doing retro toys, which is such a big thing right now. You can go in there and you can pick up a Marvel Legend, but you can also pick up some O-ring GI Joe stuff or whatever you want to whatever your fancy is. So yeah, I think there's a lot more people doing it now, and there's a con every weekend. That used to not be the case. I mean, even pre-COVID, it seemed like that it just started to where the comic and toy conventions would pop up. I mean, literally there every week. You can find one every weekend within 200 miles of your house, it seems, which is great. I love that. I think that's really neat. I went to one a few weeks ago in Killeen, Texas, which is south of Waco, north of Austin. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it was a neat little show, and they had some celebrity guests show up. And the reason I went was because of they had Lance and Catherine from The Last Starfighter were there.
Oh wow.
So I was able to get and Killeen, Texas had these guys. So it was really, I love this film. And I've been trying to get people to make action figures for it forever. But it's a difficult license because it's split between a lot of different parties. So but yeah, so I love the fact that that's happening. And how it's the same. I think the overall passion that everyone holds for these kind of things is fairly homogeneous. Everyone you just love the stuff. And if you really want to hang out with like-minded people and talk about this stuff, do trades, do whatever, talk, you talk somebody into, hey, you need to watch this movie. If you like that movie, you really need to see this, or you need to watch that show. And this, inadvertently, a collector has got you into something else. And it's just, it's a great way to build, camaraderie and, to, like I said, gain a friend or two. Everyone can use a friend or two. So
yeah, we're involved in a lot of different Facebook groups, whether it's like DC, Marvel, NECA, some Mezco stuff. So we see a lot of that with just, even with our listeners, connecting and finding people that have similar interests. And I think, like you said, COVID probably has emphasized that a little bit more.
Yeah, everything
but
just
it's
got
just
the whole collector community got magnified under COVID.
yeah,
Because
but
like I said, there was limits of what you could do.
yeah, we just like seeing kind of the community and people supporting each other and doing customs or whatever that might be. And of course, we want to get into the magazine. I just wanted to talk quick about the book you had, The Toys That Time Forgot. Could you, I thought that sounded really interesting, but could you tell our listeners a little bit about that book?
All right. Well, first off, there's 3 of them. So I wrote 3 books. The first one came out, I think, almost 7 years ago now. And then 2 years later, the second one, then just now, as we speak, volume 3 is here. So we just got the 3rd book after much delay. As you can imagine, trying to get anything accomplished internationally these days is a bit of a bear. But so the whole idea behind the book was, basically when a toy company works on a property, or let's say it this way. We probably only see about 30 to 35% of what toy companies actually work on ever hit the store shelves. When you think of that number, and you think of, the work that you will both probably do in a year, that's a lot of stuff left on the cutting room floor, so to speak. And then none of it's, and not necessarily because it's bad. There's a lot of factors. There's budgeting factors. There's logistics factors. There's licensing factors. There's a lot of things that go into it. But it became a curiosity about, man, what are we missing? What didn't happen that could have happened? And there were some pretty high profile examples out there of that kind of stuff. One of the first ones I saw was the Dark Crystal figures that Hasbro made back in '83 and never released. So I was like, well, okay, well, why? I wonder why that happened. So I hunted down, I found some Hasbro guys. I talked to them, talked to some people who worked on the Henson side, and said, why didn't this happen? And the consensus was that, Hasbro, at the end of the day, really didn't take the job in order to put the product out. They took the job to impress Henson with their ability to do a project in a short window, a quality, and turn out a quality project within a fairly short window, with the idea that would motivate them to award Hasbro licenses down the road. So it's more about building goodwill than anything else. And it worked because, a few months later, they got a Muppet Baby license out of it. So, I'm sure Dark Crystal fans are like, well, that's kind of crappy, but, that's business. So, but at the same time, those figures were almost mythical for a time. And, collectors, for whatever reason, only thought like only one complete set of these things existed. And I met with a gentleman who used to work at Henson, and he had a set. And so I took a very innocent picture of myself in front of a loose complete set of these unproduced Dark Crystal figures. And the internet exploded all into my inbox saying, where did you get these? What's the deal? The common theme was that only one of these sets existed, and we know where they all are, and blah blah blah. Some of them got a little snippy, actually. We demand to know where these are. I was like, well, keep on wishing, But it was it was just one of those things. It was cool to be in the room with them. It was cool to be able to touch them and handle them, and hear the stories about them. And and the book came out of a desire to, actually a selfish desire to want to have that book. I wanted that book, and no one else was going to do it. So I'm a journalist. Why not give it a shot? So when I started doing the research, I found so many other, fairly compelling, stories and lines and just stuff that never happened. It turned out to be a wonderful 2-year project. I made a lot of friends, saw a lot of stuff that not a lot of people have ever seen. And, the book came out, and I think it was fairly well received. Enough to where, I called the first one Volume 1, not because I had any intentions of doing another one, but because I didn't want people to think that was everything.
Yeah.
Because it's not. I could write 10 of these books and it would still not be everything. So, but one did well enough for me to do 2, and then 2 did well enough to make me do 3.
Okay.
And the trilogy, everyone was saying, are you going to do another one? And I'm like, well, let's just call it a trilogy for now, and maybe we'll come back to it later. all my focus now is on this magazine,
Mm.
trying to, because I wanted to tell stories about these unproduced toys, that we've never heard before. But wouldn't it be a lot more intriguing and a lot more, I guess, social if I was able to tell stories we'd never heard before about toys we all got to play with as kids?
Mm.
So that's the shift that I made with the magazine. Now it's almost not some weird exclusive club of, unproduced toy aficionados. Now it's everybody.
Mm.
So, and I think hopefully with the first issue of the magazine, I was able to, kind of showcase what this thing is going to be going forward.
And so, speaking of the magazine going forward, what can we expect in the magazine when we get either the first issue or ongoing issues?
Yeah. So here's the first one right here.
Awesome.
So these went out. This went out to subscribers late last week, early this week. So a lot of people got it. Most of the people in the United States have them now, I think, or the majority. I've seen some people in Pennsylvania that got it, in Indiana and this and California. So hopefully it's out there now. Usually the aim is to do one or two fairly deep dive features about a toy line. For the first one, it was gargoyles. So, we were able to get the exclusive reveal of the Cold Stone figure, but we also wanted to go back and talk not only about NECA's plans and what they're doing, but we wanted to transition back to the original Kenner line and how they approached it and what they did with it. And we also talked with the guy that created the series. So it's one of those things where you're kind of intertwining the history of the toys with the history of the cartoon, because there's a lot of back and forth. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a lot of back and forth between the toy companies and the cartoon makers when that cartoon is being made.
Mm-hmm.
The toy companies will feed the cartoon maker, the animators or whatever, whoever's doing the project. We need a vehicle. So can we get a helicopter or something in one of these episodes that we can make as a toy?
Nice.
And that was one of the stories with gargoyles. They wanted a helicopter for some reason. We need a helicopter. Can we get a helicopter in there? And Greg, the guy who whose show it was, goes, they have wings. Why do they need a helicopter? And it was like, well, can't something be too far for them to fly or whatever? So I think they actually worked in a helicopter in one of these episodes.
Wow.
And then Hasbro never made it.
Oh.
So or Kenner never made it. So yeah, it's just so we tell that story along with the Cold Stone reveal on the front. We also have in the center spread a kind of so you can see like in process pictures of him.
Oh, cool.
When they were actually sculpting him from scratch. So we want to show people that. I mean, the tagline for this thing is "You're behind the curtain deep dive into the world of collectible action figures, past and present." So that's what we want to kind of be. We want to, we want to show you stuff and tell you stories that you wouldn't ordinarily get any other way.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, we're different from the magazines that came before us, because a lot of those guys, the only thing that really got them a lot of subscribers and stuff was because there was the first place that you could reveal photographs.
Mm.
Well, the internet has that game cornered, just about. I mean, Cold Stone was ours.
Yeah.
But for the most part, most of the stuff gets dumped on the internet, and now most of it gets dumped on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I will say this: if you ever wanted to exercise in futility, go try to work a search engine on any of the social media sites. And say something you saw earlier. It's like,
Yeah.
I'd like to see that again. Go back and search for it. Good luck, unless you know exactly where you saw it before.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to navigate. So, so again, we wanted to. I mean, there's a news section in the front of the magazine, but it's some of it, the news is exclusive. Some of it is, some of the more popular, like we did a little story on the HasLab His Tank about it funding.
Mhm.
We'll do stuff like that. A lot of times when there's news comes out, a press release can come out, you can pick up the phone or type an email and say, hey, you didn't address this in your press release or when you released, can we get a little more info, a little more color? And then your story has a little added value, instead of just being something that again could have been put up on the internet. So we try to differentiate ourselves as best we can. um, One of the questions we got a lot early on was there going to be a price guide? The answer was no. It was always going to be no. Price guides are too difficult. The way prices change nowadays, especially for a bi-monthly publication. By the time I got that to you, those prices would be obsolete.
Mhm.
Um, there's not a good answer for a price guide anymore, because even the closed eBay auctions nowadays, because you're able to do offers. Sometimes
Right.
you just get that green line and you don't know
Yeah.
what it actually went for. So, if someone can figure that out, that would be really cool. And I would love to be a part of that, but it's tough. So our answer to price guide was something I called price check,
Mm.
which with the number of stores that I was mentioning earlier that have popped up over the course of the last few years, what we did is we created a map, and it goes around the country, and it shows you some of these independent stores and some of their highlighted sales over the past 30 to 60 days.
Wow.
So again, you get kind of a regional look at what these toys sold for, through those stores, through that given time period.
Are those more like retro older stuff, or is
Yeah,
that kind of a
this is
mix?
mostly. Oh yeah, I mean, this is mostly older stuff, because I mean
Mhm.
that's where the dynamic price changes are going to come, right?
Mhm.
And everything's going up, right? So, you know, Billy Galaxy sold a complete open box Fortress of Fangs from LJN's AD&D line for $1,350, or Farpoint in New Jersey sold one of the old Kenner inflatable yellow lightsabers box for 250, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So you'll be able to get an idea about not only over time over regional pricing, but just in general, like, oh, okay, well, that's if you're negotiating with someone else over a yellow blow up lightsaber and he wants 250 for his loose one, you say, well, a box one sold up in Jersey for 250, and maybe it helps. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of our way to give at least a little bit of a barometer about what's happening out there with vintage toys.
Very cool. And then, so how do you decide what gets to go in there? Like, because I mean, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but Cold Stone gets to be on the front cover, and that's probably because you get to be the one to reveal that. But
Right.
how do you decide which stories are the good ones to tell? How do you find those stories?
Yeah, it's so my my early ambition was to have as many exclusive reveals on the cover as possible.
Mm.
Mostly because that was a lot of the criticism that I got early on about bringing back a print magazine. People were telling me point blank, you were not going to get exclusive news in that magazine. Well, you can.
You said,
It's just,
"Watch me."
yeah, it's just a matter of, you just have to be able to, you know, uh, work your contacts, and
Hmm.
it's a little bit of luck and timing, something that they want to say when my magazine comes out. So I was able to secure, um, this image. I've got other ones in the future I'm working on. Two was supposed to have a reveal on it as well. I'm still working on that. It's going to have a news reveal at the very least. The image
Okay.
might not be um, uh, an exclusive reveal, but um, the news will be.
Okay.
And then the third one, we do have an image that's going to be an exclusive reveal. Um, so yeah, we want to work those angles as best we can. And I also want to go back and forth between old and new. So like, Gargoyles obviously has dual life, has a life now, had a life then.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the second magazine, the lead story, is similar. It has a life now, it had a life then. You know, and then we're also doing, there's two big features in the second one. We're also doing what I'll call, without giving away the farm, I'll call it a seasonal feature.
Okay.
You know, since it's November, December, you guys figure it out. So we got that. And you know, and I'll cover cons when I can cover them. So there's a Comic-Con wrap up in here, images from Comic-Con. We're gonna do, I mean, everyone's going to HasCon online or PulseCon online at the end of the month, but
Right.
we'll have a little PulseCon wrap up because I think it'll be worthwhile, especially if they show a lot of Indiana Jones stuff, which I'm hoping they do.
Yeah, we saw that announcement. That's exciting.
Yeah. You know, Indy's had such a horrible run as a toy line. You know, I want, you know, hopefully they're going to do some nice 6-inch stuff before it gets shut down again. But we'll see. You know, and then there's a show in November, which I guess won't be for this next one, but for January, February, there's Designer Con, which is out in Anaheim, which is a really cool show that a lot of independent toy makers go and kind of flaunt their wares. But there's a lot of old industry guys who have kept going kind of on their own personal levels and have these little or sometimes big you know, sculptures and toys. So I like to go out there because I run into a lot of people who used to work for Hasbro and, you know, Mattel and all that stuff. So that's a pretty cool show. So we'll do show wrap ups. There's also reviews in the back of the magazine. I don't know. That's the one thing I wasn't sure of, is how much stock people would put in a written review of a toy, since there's so much online you could go to as far as you know, YouTube reviews and that sort of thing. But like, here's one of the Lightyear ships that Mattel did. You know, so it's that sort of thing. We'll see. I mean, that could be something that expands or contracts with feedback.
Nice.
And that's kind of the position we're in now. Now that they're out there, you know, here comes the feedback. Let's see who likes it and who doesn't, and see what we could possibly change or enhance or constrict or what have you.
So do you do the writing, or do you have like a team of people, or how does that work?
So I do a lot of it. I do the feature writing for the most part. I have a team of wonderful contributors who do individual columns. So, and I went out to basically the YouTube community and said, "Hey guys, I'm going to start this toy magazine. Would having a column, you know, interest you?" And you know, the feedback I got right away was, yeah, let's do that. It'd be great to have a toy mag back. So like Pixel Dan has a column. Dan Larson from Toy Galaxy or Secret Galaxy now has a column. Daniel Pickett from Action Figure Insider has a column. Gus Lopez, who's a fairly well-known Star Wars collector, has a column. And then David Vonner and Adam Van Wickler. Those are two industry guys that David's worked for Mattel and Hasbro and you name it. Currently, he's overseeing the toy business at Nacelle. And then Adam has been at Gentle Giant for 20 years doing this, you know, scanning and 3D stuff. So they have a joint column that's basically kind of a conversation between the two about various pop culture things. It was originally going to be a podcast, but I don't know what, something happened on that end to where the podcast never came out. And so I was like, well, why don't we condense it and just do it as a column in the magazine, and it could just be kind of a back and forth thing between you two guys. And they said, yeah, let's do it. So, and it's going to be kind of a movable feast. Those same players won't show up in every issue. I'll get new voices in when I can. So, but those are the guys who are in the first one. Trying to think if I'm leaving anybody out. I don't think so.
Very cool. So how could our listeners get their hands? Is it have to be ordered, the magazine, or
Yeah,
how does that break
Yeah, so
down?
right now the subscription is available. But if you subscribe today, you're going to start with issue number 2. So subscription, you can get ToyCollectr.com has a button to subscribe, and it'll take you to the gateway there. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, once everybody gets their hands on it, we're going to put up somewhere. I have to figure out, probably on ToyCollectr.com as well, a way to buy the single issue of number 1, because a lot of people again are going to have missed out on it. So hopefully that'll be going in a couple of weeks. It got distributed through Diamond, so your comic shop could order it. Although we had a little difficulty because my Diamond rep left the company and didn't tell me.
Oh no.
So I had about 6 weeks of silence when I should have been working with them, and we got it all worked out now. But what ended up happening is the first issue didn't make it into previews. It only made it in their new to order segment, and it was only for a week. So it was very short window because the thing was getting printed. So I was like, take as many orders as you can because I'm going to have these in a week's time or whatever. So they did that. I think the second one, it'll be available for a longer period of time, but I think it missed previews too because the previews window is fairly early on. The third one I know will be in previews because I was told so by my new representative. So take that for what it's worth. But in any case, your comic shop can order ToyCollectr. So if you would like it to be, in your box or at least in the store for you to purchase, go to your comic shop and ask them politely, hey, would you order ToyCollectr magazine? And then, they can go on their Diamond portal and order as many copies as they want.
Nice.
As far as other distribution, like can I go into Barnes and Noble and get it or that sort of thing? Not right now. We're a small startup company. We're trying baby steps as far as distribution is concerned. I didn't want to get into the world of returns and credits and all this stuff when your magazines don't sell. So we're going to take it kind of slow and steady when it comes to that sort of thing. I think having Diamond being able to distribute them though you'll have most folks who will want to grab one will have the opportunity. They just have to talk to their comic shop. I've talked to a lot of comic stores already, trying to get the word out about it. I sent out a lot of stores had some 4x6 little promo cards that they handed out and everything. So, I mean, hopefully I got a pretty robust order out of just that week of having the first one available. So I'm hoping as these windows widen for ordering that continues.
Awesome. And now you're probably the best person to ask this to that we're going to have on this podcast with your knowledge of toys past and present. Do you believe that there is a single best toy ever created?
Or just like one of the greatest?
Yeah.
There can be arguments made for a lot of things. It's not anything. It's not an action figure. Unfortunately, I would have to go with something more like the Magic 8-Ball. It would be high up on my list.
Okay.
The Rubik's Cube, even though I could never solve it without taking it apart and putting it back together.
Sure.
Would be on the list. I mean, just think, I guess maybe the 8-Ball is more of a novelty than a toy, maybe. But I consider the Rubik's Cube a toy.
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, if you talk about the greatest action figure ever made, I was like, ugh, I wouldn't know where to start with that. And where do you, and what do what are the criteria? I was pretty impressed, but I will say, if I was put on the spot and just, thinking right off the top of my head, that 18-inch super articulated Spider-Man that Toy Biz did back when the first Tobey Maguire movie came out
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
pretty spectacular.
Nice.
I had
With
that
the
one.
finger articulation,
Yeah.
uh, that was pretty damn cool. Because it may have been the first one like that had so much detail and so much articulation in it, to where people were kind of seeing the what could be's,
Mm.
It was like, wow, if we can figure out a way to shrink that down and have that kind of articulation, that would be something special.
Mhm.
And for the most part, they've done it. But yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
That's a tough.
Dakota and I were kind of fortunate when we started collecting when we were younger, came into the Toy Biz scene. Those like Spider-Man classics, early Toy
Yeah,
Biz Marvel Legends, and
yeah,
Hmm.
those were, yeah, even for me, like from the hand-me-downs from my brothers, those were way different.
yeah,
Those were like, whoa,
yeah.
these are pretty cool. So
And
I,
I'll
I
throw in another one. If a board game can be considered a toy, Dark Tower
Hmm.
was one of my favorite games as a kid. And then I'm trying to think about what I played with as a kid. I haven't rebought Dark Tower, but I do plan on it when I find the right one. They can be kind of pricey though.
Mm.
Um, I had a Big Track. Does anybody remember Big Track? It was I think it was Milton Bradley.
Mm.
It was a big tank looking thing. It had three wheels on either side, and it was programmable on the top. Had like a punch pad
Oh,
where you could say 3 straight, turn, 5 straight, turn, fire 3 times, and the thing would go choo, 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 choo. So it would basically
yeah.
do what you told it to do.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's cool.
for the time, it was oh, you're, oh my god, this thing's amazing. And
Right.
you look at it now and you're like, what the hell? But I mean,
Sure.
but I had so much joy out of Big Track. I got so much joy out of Super Toe, which was I think it may have been Shopper. A toy company's not around anymore. But it was a field goal kicker. It was a little stocky guy with a head like a plunger, and you would plunge his head, and his foot would kick the ball, and you had a an
Goalpost.
upright, a goal post that at the end. And my house, when I grew up, featured this very long hallway.
Nice.
So I would be like way down one end, and I put the goalpost way at the other. And I mean, we would mash the crap out of that guy's head to try to get the football all the way to the goalpost. Um, that was really fun. And the old Evil Knievel wind up thing was always fun. The motorcycle ride in Evil Knievel, where you put him on the skids and you wind him up and you hit the button and he takes off like a shot. You could do some amazing stuff with that thing.
Very cool. So a lot of the ones you've described are kind of older, more interactive toys. Do you think we still have that for kids today, or are all these daggum kids too interested in their technology? And
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you'll see anything like that aimed at kids, or very rarely
mm,
will you see something like that aimed at kids again. I mean, it's just not. Uh, there's a lot more. Kids have so much more on their plates today
mm,
than we did when we were kids. I mean, it was just I didn't really. I'd ride my bike and go to the park and toss a
right.
ball around, and there
Hmm.
wasn't a lot of or I'd sit at home and play with toys or whatever. Nowadays it's kids have all the kids have these things, and they can sit there and talk to their friends or do whatever, and it's totally different social dynamic than it was when I was a kid. I mean, I could stay out till dark, you know, it was one of those things where and I was riding bike around the neighborhood when the street lights come on, you got to come home. That was
Right.
always the rule.
Yeah.
So, but today you don't have that.
Mhm.
But
Do you kind of see then, like, as far as the future of action figures or toys, um, do you see that kind of remaining with some older collectors, or do you think um, like younger collectors are still getting into
yeah,
those?
I think that there is a breed of younger collector that's into action figures, and I think that is probably you know, a direct line from what we were talking about earlier about parents basically feeding their hobbies down to their kids.
Mhm.
You know, and I love the fact that you know the kids are into this stuff as well. You know, go to a show and uh, you know have a kid say, "Oh, look, Dad, it's you know the Hulk from Infinity War." I didn't know that was that Hulk. You know, it's just a Hulk. You know, so it's you know it's neat that they're picking up on this stuff. And you know, every time I go to the toy store and go down the toy aisle, it was like you know one of the jokes used to be, "What are these kids doing on the toy aisle? Get out of here!"
Get out of my way.
Yeah, don't you know this is for us 40 and 50-year-olds now?
Right.
But you know, it's neat that there's enough out there for them to still, you know, be interested in this sort of thing. And then again, I think that it's not about necessarily the property, the film, the cartoon, the whatever, but it's about being able to experience something with your dad or with your mom who collected this stuff before, and
Mhm.
you know, you have it's a common bond, right?
For
So if
sure.
mom was into strawberry shortcake
I
and
was gonna say my mom
and
was
the
into strawberry
daughters,
shortcake.
yeah, and the daughter's like, oh, this is really neat. And then we have again Boss Fight Studios bringing back strawberry shortcake as action figures this time, not as dolls. So it's even uh, you know certain properties, certain values, certain things just kind of transcend everything, and it's just left with you know it's another form of connection between you and your kids because trust me, I've seen some parents out there that have sadly not very much in common with their own children.
Mhm.
um, so it's very cool to be able to go out and fish with your son or you know play whatever games with your daughter, but it's also you know it's very cool that you can share you know in a toy collection, and it's not like you know here's your toys, don't touch daddy's, you know.
Right.
You know, for the most part, a lot of collectors that I know that aren't, you know, high dollar prototype type collectors, you know,
Mhm.
will let their kids play with their stuff, and that's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I guess one of the last questions I think we have is, do you have any grail toys or action figures or anything that you're always on the lookout for? Or if you ever become that billionaire, this is the first thing you're going to go get.
If I ever become a billionaire, I don't think toys are going to be something that I'm going to run
At
out and
least
go
one
get.
that you're still looking for, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, having done those books and seen so much stuff that had never come out,
Yeah.
people always ask me, it's like, how much of that stuff did you actually pick up? How much of that stuff did you buy when you're in the room with it? And the truth is not much at all.
Mhm.
You know, I was collecting stories. I wasn't collecting you know, the actual physical prototypes or what have you. But I will say that out of all the trips that I took and everything, I made 2 transactions for 3 figures, and they were all prototypes of the unreleased second series of Earthworm Jim from Playmates. For whatever reason, I love Earthworm Jim. I think the cartoon's hilarious. You know, you can say what you want to about its creator, but
I remember Earthworm Jim.
yeah. So I mean, there's some over my shoulder back there,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I bought. There was a second wave that was prototyped and but never took to tooling when the cartoon was canceled. Playmates didn't release it, but I have a painted hard copy of Evil Jim. I have a wax of a character called Clutch, which is a Playmates designed character. It never appeared in any of the Earthworm Jim cartoon or games or anything like that. It was just one of those things that they created and was sticking in the line. I have a hard copy, an unpainted hard copy of the Hamsternator, which was another character from the cartoon. And I have unpainted hard copy of Samurai Jim, which was another Jim variant that was going to be made. You can't really see it, but that picture right here is actually a drawing, the actual vellum on or pencil on vellum drawing of Extendo Arm Jim. And then the one over on top of the dinosaur is Copter Head Jim, which are two more of the Jim variants that didn't make it. I also have a drawing like that. It's much bigger of the motorcycle that he was going to come out, but never came out.
Very cool.
I got into doing the drawings because they're a lot cheaper than actually prototype.
Sure.
I imagine.
So I've never heard of having a wax figure before, but I'd imagine in Texas that would make me nervous that the power goes out. And how does that work?
As long as it's a cool, dry place, you're in good shape.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, if the power went out for a prolonged period of time, it may get a little soft, but for the most part,
it's safe.
Yeah,
okay.
they're pretty safe.
Okay.
You just don't want to handle them a lot because they are delicate.
Okay. Very cool. Jordan, did you have any final questions?
No, thank you for taking the time to talk with us.
Yeah. Is there anything that you
really
wanted to you said where to get the magazine, but anything you wanted to plug here at the end of the show?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want to, as far as social media is concerned, for
Yep.
ToyCollectr, you can go to facebook.com/ToyCollector. That's spelled without the O on the end. Instagram is the same, @ToyCollector, and then Twitter is @ToyCollectorMag. And then for Toys That Time Forgot, facebook.com/Toys That Time Forgot. Toys That Time Forgot on Instagram, and on Twitter, it's actually @Blake_E_Wright, which is just kind of my general author handle, because I plan on writing a lot more books than just these toy books, and I still do. But for right now, my focus is solely on the magazine.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, like Jordan said, thank you so much for your time. Make sure you guys go out and get the new magazine. Tell your comic book stores that you want to get it stocked on the shelves and in your box, and then get all the amazing stories that Jim is or that you're going to get in the Toy Collector from all your favorite YouTubers. It sounds like, even so.
Yeah,
maybe even mention it in the comments on their show that they need to go in and get a column put into the magazine themselves.
That's right. 72 pages of fun in this one right here. So there you go.
That's awesome.
We like the sound of that.
Thank you so much. And until next time, stay strong.